Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third session of our Future Leaders program. Today, we've got a really great session. So as I promised in our email, it's no PowerPoints, all talk. So just really looking forward to getting to, thanks, Rick. Really looking forward to getting to know three individuals who are in this industry, getting to know their stories and where they came from, how they got there, just kind of their journey along the way. So without further ado, I'll Rick, since you were so enthusiastic, I'm going to start it with you. So if you just want to tell a little bit about yourself, you know, what you currently do in the industry, and we'll kind of go from there and let the story progress. So go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, so the slideshow thing just I thought was hilarious because I created my first PowerPoint like last week in that not like ever. I hadn't done. Yeah, Derek almost fell out of his chair. I haven't done a PowerPoint in like 12 years. So I'm glad that we're not doing slides. I didn't have to prepare for this. So I simply tell folks that you know I am a life insurance guy. Sometimes I say it with even more candor than that, but I are what I are. And it's as I start communicating about life insurance, people start seeing the options that we're able to do as far as taxation and legacy planning and the transfer of assets and learning how to leverage these tools within the confines of the Internal Revenue Code. And I'm really, really specialized. I didn't think that I was going to be a life insurance guy. I did think that I was going to be an insurance guy, but a story really, I tell folks I chose to get into insurance, but the life insurance world just kind of chose me. And I'm blessed to have had some degrees of success. I've served a lot of families in the tens of thousands, which is an absolute blessing. And it's been an interesting journey to get to this seat right here. I started with a multi-line agency, and then I went to a very large agency to specialize in advanced planning and strategies. And then I took a total pivot and then focused specifically on the senior market, just doing final expense, small little life insurance plans, and then kind of going full circle because I built a team in 24 states, a pretty good sized team, and then joined with an SEC registered RIA. So we are a full service firm. I'm one of the partners, but I just focus on really what I call the agency, the risk planning, the life insurance realm of it. But it was a strange journey. I tell producers and advisors when I first meet them that you don't have to decide what you want your specialty right out of the gate. The industry is so vast that you're just going to be kind of pulled to one direction. You might find something that really speaks to you. And again, I never thought that would be me, but I scream it from the rooftops that it is me. And I'm proud of it. I get pulled into really large business just because of my specialty. So I always felt like if you were going to do something, go all in on it. You'll learn that specialization for a lot of folks in this business really is the direction they go, whether it's Derek, who's going to talk about dentists, or going different directions. Trying to find a niche, I think, affords additional specialization and additional income. But that's brevity of where I've been and what I've been doing, and hopefully we'll unpack some of that later.
Thanks, Rick. Derek, why don't you go, since Rick kind of gave a little trickle into what you're going to talk about.
Perfect segue. So again, my name is Derek Scheetz. I am in the beautiful state of Ohio, right in the capital of Columbus. I was born and raised here, and I've been here my entire life. So bringing it back to what Rick mentioned and how he got into the industry and then maneuvered around a little bit and found that life insurance is really his specialty. I've been doing that my entire career. I've been doing this for 7 years, and throughout those 7 years, I have found a few areas that are very great for me and a few areas that are not. And I've avoided those other areas and just focused on the ones that are good and great, because I have that opportunity and I have the option to do so. I'm not stuck with let's just call it a group of people that I may not want to work with. I have the option of choosing who I want to work with. Rick mentioned dentists. I grew up in a family of dentists. I just didn't become a dentist. So my route of getting involved with dentistry and helping dentists was quite seamless for me. I found that I was able to speak the language, the lingo. I understood what went on in a practice and what dentists are looking for long term. It's not just about what do they want to buy next year or next week. It's about saving for something greater than that, whether it's their children's college or their second house or their personal retirement or anything else in between. The wonderful part of our industry is there are so many facets to it. You're never going to find yourself being that jack of all trades where you're an expert in everything. If you think you're an expert in everything, you're wrong. Ultimately, you have to have confidence in other individuals that you work with to bring an expert to the table. There are conversations that I'm not confident enough to have. I'm not either educated enough in a certain area, i.e. advanced planning, where I will bring in someone that I know is much more seasoned than I am to have some of those conversations. So the best part about what we do is we get to meet new people every single day, and we get to help new people every single day. There are a lot of areas of our business that may feel transactional, but in reality, it's all based on a relationship. And those transactions occur because it's part of something bigger. And if you're able to help individuals from A to Z focus on what's most important during that process, so they have the stresses taken away and they have stability and security in their financial futures, it's just making our lives even better. It's a blessing to be able to help individuals focus on what's most important for them, which is creating something greater. It may be creating wealth. It may be continuing to work harder so that they can do more with their wealth. Our goal and our job is to help them take off the extra stress of what else is out there. We work with experts. I go see a dentist when I have a problem with my tooth, just like I'd go see my general practitioner if I had an issue with my blood sugar, whatever it may be. We work with experts and we find ourselves to be experts in specific areas of financial planning. So it's a wonderful industry, and it is so broad that you'll find you can focus on something that you really, really like and accelerate there, and everything else comes along with it. So I'm not sure if that was exactly what you wanted to hear, but that's my my quick snippet of the joys of being a financial advisor.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek. Yeah, go ahead, Memes.
Elimination, it's me. That's good. So, hey, Grayson, nice to meet you, and thanks for dressing up for this. Actually, I really like the professionalism that you bring to the table here. I will say that my career is a little bit different than what Derek and Richard shared. So I'll give you a little bit of the other side of the coin. So I started, I actually didn't even know this industry existed, frankly. When I went to school and college, I graduated with a finance degree, which is what they had at UC Davis, where I graduated from. And I went straight in from the Gap, because I was working at the Gap while I was in school, and went into management right afterwards. And about 5 years after being at the Gap, working weird hours and overnight flows and things like that, I got to get out of here. And so I happened to be on one day where my assistant manager was there with me, and his girlfriend walked in and said, "Oh, you're quitting? Oh, so like there's this job that opened up. It's not even posted yet, but maybe you should interview for it." So I did. And turns out that they liked me enough, they hired me. So now I'm learning everything. I'm learning how to type, because in school I never did the typing class. I'm learning how to really use a computer on a full-time basis. I'm also learning really cool concepts like what's life insurance, what's an investment, what's a mutual fund, what's a stock. And so I really started very, very green many, many years ago. We won't say how many years, but lots and lots of years. So I stayed at my first company at Lincoln for many years and learned so much, everything from, again, what is life insurance, what's term insurance, all the way to how do you read a trust, and what are the key words that you're looking for as you're reviewing a trust for a client. So really had a great opportunity to learn so much at the very beginning and throughout my career. After I left the advisor's practice, which I learned a lot, I had the opportunity to work more in a regional role and then a national role. And the regional role was more around the director of insurance and director of marketing. So I was really able to help advisors with, how to create personal introductions. So in other words, instead of just trying to hunt somebody down by cold calling, what are some other opportunities? Well, if Derek and I are working together and Derek says, "Oh my gosh, you've done such a great job," that's my point of entry to say, "All right, Derek, who do you know that you, because your relationship with them, feel it's necessary for them to meet me, because I may or may not be able to help them, but it's because of our relationship and the help that I've been able to provide you." So anyways, I'm taking a tangent there. My point is I've had a lot of different roles within the organizations at not only Lincoln, because I had probably 4 or 5 hats there, but then I'm now at a new firm. It's called Hightower, and it's an RIA. So I think Derek mentioned this. There's so many different ways, so many different avenues that you can really enter into this business. And though I started off in a practice and learning the business that way, it's really helped to afford me to look at various aspects or various roles within the organization that all support the advisor, that all support how we can make advisors successful. And while I was at Lincoln, I also had an opportunity to do my own business. I had my own book. It was very small, but the fact that I was able to get all my licensing up front, which I would highly recommend whenever you join an organization. In fact, I remember in college, one of my buddies had gotten a Series 7. I'm like, Series 7? What are you doing getting Series 7 while you're in college? But actually it was genius, right? Because it gave him a kickstart to his next life after school. So you may want to consider that. If you can join a firm where they're willing to sponsor you and get your Series 7 early, or even your life license, and you start thinking about those opportunities to get licensed. So at any rate, now I'm at an RIA, a registered investment advisor. I was previously at Lincoln at an insurance broker dealer. So even though they're all financial services, all supporting clients, there's still differences in how advisors operate in each of those different sleeves. And it's similar to what Derek and Rick go through. I mean, they have their road, how they've evolved to where they are today. And it's because they've tried one road, didn't like it, or all right, let me take that and let me enhance it. So again, I guess my point in that is that there's never a wrong road to take. It'll always take you to the next road. So don't ever feel like if I make a decision A, that means I can't do decision B. Well, that's not true. Decision A will lead you to another set of decision A, decision Bs. So you have opportunities to grow within this industry. So again, I've had the opportunity to kind of do a little bit of everything, but also be able to really be in that role of supporting advisors. So in my role today, because of everything I've learned, I'm now supporting advisors with what we call end client solutions, life insurance, planning, taxes, trust. I mean, this in my company now, we have a new trust company. And so that's been such a huge learning curve. So even this late stage in my life, I'm still able to learn lots of new things on a daily basis. So I don't know if I gave all the things I'm supposed to give there, Emily, if I overdid it, but you can tell me if I missed a question somewhere along the way.
No, you're good. You're good. I want to pause a moment and give Grayson a second to see if there's anything specific that you like after hearing that, things that each of these individuals have said that kind of sparked additional questions for you, because I see you writing a lot. So
Yep, I have 2 questions. The first one is for you, Miss Lee. You've been through a lot of roles, it sounds like. Which role would you recommend starting out with based on how much you learn and where you can kind of move up in a company from that certain role?
Okay, well, number one, please call me Mimie. Thank you. You don't have to call me Ms. Lee. So thank you. I appreciate that. I will tell you that I think that the best place to start, and even though I had my version of it then, it still exists today, which is join a team, join a practice, and start off in a role where all you're doing is learning. And what I did when I was learning, when I first started, was I took advantage of the fact that I was being paid a salary to also get my licensing. So that gave me kickstart so that I didn't have to come out of pocket myself I was able to take advantage of the fact that I was in a role where it made sense for me to get those licenses. And so that's why I would say join a team. That is absolutely the first thing you want to do. And it's okay to start small or start at a very entry level position, because then you'll learn and take every opportunity to learn. Take classes when you can. There's a lot of different companies out there that will host a free webinar on what's a bond. And so take those, anytime you can take those opportunities, just go for it. So start entry level and just keep saying, I want more, I want more, I want more, and they will give you more.
Okay, thank you.
And, you know, I'm going to tag on to what Mimie said there, because you are a NAIFA member, you've probably already started getting some webinars and things like that. And, you know, and some of the stuff might be a little more accelerated than where you are, but at least you can start hearing those terms, getting familiar with some of the people that are on the webinars. You know, we've got a webinar, I'm just going to plug our stuff. But at the end of the month, we've got a webinar that's on index, was it UIL? Rick, was it Stanford? Insurance, with it? IUL. Yes, IUL.
Index Universal.
And it was I was like, couldn't remember what the U was, but Index Universal Life. And, you know, that's pretty broad. And, you know, to be honest, as not being an advisor, I don't know that much about it personally. So it would be interesting to kind of learn some of those things. So just watch out for those. And I know the time zone issue right now, but most everything that NAIFA does, we do on demand. So if you register for it, we'll send you a link out afterwards, and you can always catch it up when it works for you.
Awesome, thank you. And then my other question is for either Mr. Scheetz or Mr. Demko. I was looking at your background. I saw you both were student athletes, and I'm also a student athlete at Denison College. I play baseball. How did being an athlete help you get into the financial world / the insurance world? And have those skills that you learned being an athlete, being on a team, translated to your workforce?
Yeah, 100%. I saw that I was already unmuted, so I'll go first, and I'll let Derek fill in the gaps. So good for you for doing some research. So I was a 5-sport athlete, and then I played collegiate rugby for the University of Arizona. That sounds more impressive than it was, because I wasn't any good. But there's some things that correlate really well to both my individual practice and then also how I work with my team, both when I started and even now. And even through my journey, as I've brought new advisors on, just on my team, I had 250 advisors at one point, which is a pretty good size. You know, here on my team now, there's 17 of us. But I love working with really two different types of folks that either have a background in education or sports. And I mentored under an advisor who only hired athletes, because I think the understanding of practice, of delayed gratification, of being a part of a team. The culture here with our firm is 100% team-based, which really works in the advisor's favor, because there are times where certain operations, people are afraid to do what we call joint work. Well, joint work, unfortunately, is really the simplest way for advisors to level up and figure out which direction they want to go. So the culture with my firm, regardless of the level that you're at, they bring me on every single life case, so they hear how I talk about life insurance. It absolutely correlates to, I think, my success in this business. And as I think all of our top advisors were athletes, and I think all of even the junior level advisors. So I don't think there's any secret to it. It wasn't just luck that all happened. Derek, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it too, though.
Thanks, Rick. And I will definitely piggyback on that. Growing up, I was a 5-6 sport athlete, got to high school, narrowed it down to 3, got to college, narrowed it down to 1. But ultimately, I was able to take the skills that I learned from each and every sport. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Even if it's wrestling, which is an individual sport, you're still a part of a team where every weight class has to have an individual in that spot. Think about a baseball team there, Grayson. If you don't have a shortstop, you need to fill that role. So when I got into the financial services industry, I was looking for a role that I could fill. There are so many of those out there. It's a matter of finding what role you're best at. Let's say you're a center fielder and you are the best center fielder that exists. That's your role. You need to accelerate in that role. If you're a terrible catcher, why spend all your time trying to get better at something you're terrible at that you may never be good at, as opposed to spending the time on accelerating on where your strengths lie? Bringing it back to the team aspect of everything, that was the reason I got into the industry. I started with a company that it was all about, you're on this team, you're with 4 individuals. The problem I had right when I got into the industry was it was 4 individuals that were all junior advisors. We really didn't have a coach or a captain. We had someone that was overseeing everything. I'd call him maybe a manager at best. But what happened was I saw the strength in teamwork. And I said it earlier, you're never going to be the jack of all trades. You will want to find people around you that can fill those holes or gaps that you have personally. It's so simple to take the team aspect of things and put it into really anything in life, but especially financial services. You're going to accelerate where you feel like you're strong, and keep doing that. It's an ongoing game, and it's again, Rick alluded to it. It's delayed gratification. This is not a get-rich-quick industry. You're not going to find yourself making $1 million in year 1. Well, you might. There's a 1%, 1% of a, but overall, it's delayed gratification where you're building a group of fans, if you will. I like to call a lot of my clients raving fans, because they're going after our meetings. They're going out and talking to their friends. They're saying, you got to come see this game. You got to come talk to Derek's team. That is ultimately the goal. You have your team, and then you have your fans on the sidelines that are talking about you outside of that game. So 100% athletics, being on a team, and it doesn't have to be an athletic team. You could have been on the math team in high school or college. It's still a team. Everyone has their strength. And if you can find your strength and work with others that can fill your gaps, it's a win. And it is a big win.
Thank you.
Awesome. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about what you guys love about your jobs. Why is this such a great career path? Memes, you started out in something completely different and switched to that. So, why did you not say, hey, you know what, never mind, this isn't for me? Why did you continue with that? And what's your passion about it?
I think that's a great question. I also wanted just to dovetail off of the things that Derek and Rick just shared around the joint work, because I grew up in that culture working at Lincoln. It was always about joint work, and you do learn so much more and faster by watching somebody who knows how to do it, and it increases your learning curve. So I would definitely take advantage of that when you do have an opportunity to work with somebody. And even if you can volunteer to say, listen, I'm just going to sit there and take notes and just listen. And that's also a good opportunity as you're learning the business early on. So your question was, what made me stay in the business? I think a part of it was I just love the problem solving of what we do in financial services for our clients. So if they have X goal, how do we help them get there based on all the resources they have today? And what are new resources that we can help them develop in order for them to reach those goals? I think I've also had more of always an analytical mind. And so this is also something very interesting to me. I like to call myself a nerd when it comes to insurance. I celebrate nerds. I think it's awesome because it just means that you're really into it, you really understand it, and you really, you just love it. And so for me, if I look at the business, I almost bifurcate it between insurance and investments. And of course, there's lots of little pieces all under both of those sleeves, but I would say I lean more towards insurance than I do with investments, because I think investments, there's so many things to learn. With insurance, I feel like there's fundamentals that but of course, like, Emily just mentioned the IUL. That's a newer insurance product that's come out on the scene in, I don't know, like last 10, 12 years. But you can always look at the insurance spectrum and know generally what all those different product universes can provide a client. And I remember one of the first like scripts I learned was the 6 commitments of life insurance, and really talking about life insurance. I remember when I first delivered it to a policyholder who was an orphan client. An orphan client just means that they were sold some insurance, but the original insurance agent has now left the firm, and so they just still sit with the company. And so it gave me an opportunity to go and have conversations. So I remember delivering the 6 commitments, talking about insurance, and how cool it was to see their reaction. And I checked in with them. I said, so it's been helpful. It's like, oh my gosh, I've never even understood insurance until you went over it with me. So it's those small wins that kept the fuel going as to why I still stayed in the business. And again, helping advisors. I know this is a very tough business, but if we can help advisors along the way with anything that in terms of client interaction, product information, sales conversation, I'm in it to win it, so to speak, right? That is what I want to do. That's what keeps me fueled all the time to help. And I was thinking about this also. I wrote some notes down when we were first starting. I know that it sounds like we're preaching or telling, and part of it is that I wish that I had somebody when I was younger and trying to figure out my pathways, to just have somebody to talk to or have somebody give me their insight, because I don't know about you guys, I'm old, and so I feel like I've paved the way in some ways, and so I just want to be able to share that journey. Now, whether you take that information and do something with it or nothing, that's of course your choice, and you're going to find your own pathway. But I hope you don't look at this as preaching, but you look at this as us really sharing our passions. And if we can help along the way, and again, I'll speak for myself, I'm here. Just let me know how we can help you. Oh, he's got a question. Grayson, go.
All right, so you mentioned how much you kind of learned on the job with insurance and kind of how you really learned as you went. Are there any classes that you took or skills that you learned while you're in college that really benefited you? And this kind of, it could be a question for anybody, especially skills that I could be learning now, or any classes I could be taking now to better skills to put myself in these industries.
I don't know what school classes are available today. I feel like the degree of financial planning is much more prevalent than when I was going to school. I was in still the world of like economics or business degree, and so that was what I had growing up. But I would still say all those classes are very foundationally important, so you still want to stick with those. But I think today, I don't know, Derek and Rick, I don't know if you had classes like that you could take in college, but I would say go even outside of that and just check in on different things like financialplanning.com, or I don't know. We have a state magazine here, California Broker, and it's an insurance angled one. So there's lots of different outside resources, but for me in college, I didn't have any choices.
Yeah, that's it. I love the question, and I really had to think. So I'm kind of looking at myself, and I see all this stuff on my wall, but it's these designations aren't available in college. I truly learned on the job, which is a lot of kind of bumbling through the industry. That's I just experience for me means just getting kicked in the teeth a lot. That it's a little old school. I'll tell you. So I do have some younger advisors on our team that when they graduated, they went and challenged the CFP exam and they all passed. I have 2 interns right now that are about to do that. So programs do exist for financial planning. All the coursework for that designation right there is what you would end up going through. You would study the same material. The CFP does require, currently, I think it'll change, but does require an undergrad degree. Beyond that, the only thing that I took in my undergrad would have been business statistics, where I learned how to use a financial calculator. I use a financial calculator every day. And remember, I'm just the dumb life insurance guy, but I use it in how I communicate. So that's a skill. And I also use the physical hard calculator, not like an app on my phone, because I think it impresses people I know how to use it. Yep, there you go. So that's what I would say. I don't know if Derek's got some additional input.
Derek's probably the most recent grad out of all of us. So.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, my degree is actually in consumer and family financial management with a specialization in financial planning. So it exists. It does exist. I will tell you, though, it's funny, at Ohio State, It is not in the Fisher College of Business. It is actually in the School of Human Ecology. So it's related. I took about a third of my classes in Fisher, and the other 2/3 were in the Consumer and Family Financial Planning department. I would suggest you will need electives. There are a handful of basic financial planning and consumer finance courses that I would take if I were you. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I think it may be consumer finance is the subject of the course, or the course title. Something similar to that will help it'll give you at least a platform, or a base, if you will, of overall finance, because unless you start to look at specialty courses or required courses within finance, there aren't a lot that have direct direct correlation to a specific subject. It's going to be very broad. So instead of learning about something specific, that's where I would start. And what that will help with, Grayson, is it'll give you a better idea of what you may or may not like. Because you may learn about risk management and insurance, or you may learn about wealth management and investing, or something in between. Ultimately, you just have to try and figure out what works, what you like, and what you don't like. Because what you don't like, just avoid it. If you get into this industry, you're gonna have the opportunity and options to avoid what you don't like. And then a quick segue into, Emily's question about why I love doing what I do. It's a matter of being able to do something different every single day. I don't see the same. I mean, yes, in my office, I see the same people, but when I'm meeting with clients, every single person is different. Every single person has a different story, different background. And I get to know those individuals. It's a wonderful experience getting to know new people. And not only that, I don't want to say put on a different hat every day, but I do. Earlier today, I had 2 meetings where I was much more casually dressed because that's who I was meeting with. This afternoon, it's the opposite. I have 2 meetings that are much more, I would say, with professional type people, and I'm going to be wearing my jacket. That it's just a matter of you can be flexible, and you can also be yourself at the same time. It's a wonderful, wonderful career because we don't have to do what others tell us to do if we don't want to. We can do what we want, but you have to be disciplined in it. And that's, again, bringing it back to the athletics. The discipline's already there for you. You just have to focus on what's next.
So I love what Derek said. So I sold a tremendous amount of life insurance wearing flip-flops and shorts, but here I am wearing a bow tie. So you know what? In my world, the answer to every question, Grayson, is it depends. Hey, what kind of life insurance should I buy? I don't know. It depends. So, but I get to sort through the depends. So that's the thing that I like. I want to share a quick story, Emily, if I can. So, Grayson, I teach my team about this triangle of success, and what this triangle would be, if you were to think about each point on this equilateral triangle being knowledge, skill, and attitude. So what we're talking about so far is knowledge. You're going through a program now. Derek and Mimie and I have captured some knowledge over the years, talking about what classes could I take, how can I get some more knowledge. That's a piece of it. But I think your question was based on where can I acquire some of these skills. And you're going to have some skills. You're skilled on the ball field as a pitcher. My son's a pitcher and a catcher, so I get it. And I'll tell you what. When he's behind the plate, I don't worry about him. I don't worry about my son at all. But when he's pitching off the mound, I'm a wreck. So it's just a different thing. So you've got some skills, but the skill thing, being out with other advisors and being in what we call the field of our game is really where you get more of that. But we can give you, and I echo what Mimie said. So my passion is really working with other advisors. I'm happy to offer myself and to take time for whoever decides to call or text me or find me on LinkedIn or whatever. That's what fires me up. Writing more life insurance doesn't fire me up. I've written too much already, but big cases even don't bother me anymore. But when I see a young advisor, like a light bulb clicks, that's amazing. So I talked briefly about knowledge. We talked about skills. People can give you more of that stuff. But the last one, the attitude part, we can't give you that. And that's kind of the tipping point, because it's having a positive attitude is going to accentuate in all those other areas where you're going to be able to learn more from other advisors. It's yes, there's going to be bad days. I get bad days every day. It's just thankfully that I get enough reps where usually they end up working themselves out. But if someone comes to me and they're just totally defeated, I understand that. But if they have a bad attitude and they're defeated, I can't do anything with that. So that attitude part is always up to whoever that individual is.
That makes total sense. Thank you. I definitely agree with that.
Hey, Grayson, what are you doing in Italy? Is that just a year abroad, a semester abroad? What's the reason why you're in Italy?
Yep, just a study abroad program.
Okay.
So that's one thing Dickinson is pretty good at, is their study abroad programs, and I love it so far. I'm here with two of my teammates. There's a baseball field half a mile away, a gym half a mile away, so still get all that stuff done. So it's good. I love it.
And are you learning the language pretty easily?
I'm not the best at learning languages, but it's definitely a little easier to learn it over here than it is me learning Spanish back in the States. I mean, I get out to the store and people are speaking Italian, so it's kind of a little more prevalent and more in my mind every day.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely immersion. I think that's the sort of comparison, right? If you get into this business, it's going to be the immersion into the business where you're just really going to learn. So same kind of idea, but anyways, and it's also great that you're studying abroad. I wish I had done that in college myself. So lucky you.
Thank you. Yep, it's been great so far.
What other questions do you have? Oh, right ahead.
Well, I was going to say, so Grayson, obviously he's a brand new NAIFA member, which we're super excited about. Obviously he doesn't have, he's limited to the connections and things like that he can do right now in Italy, but all three of you, bleed NAIFA blue. And so, talk a little bit about your NAIFA experience and, why you're a member, why you stay a member, just kind of talk about that and what your benefits are, why you're here, why when Emily asks you to volunteer, to give an hour of your time to this, why is there not a second question like, yep, I'm there?
So I'll go first. I love giving my NAIFA story. So I've been a Rotarian for 17 years, and within Rotary, sometimes we talk about a Rotary why. And I guess when you're a part and you have a lot of passion for one organization, it kind of transfers. So I love talking about my NAIFA why, and I had some really great resources around me early in my career, which was really important. But then I found myself all alone with a big team and didn't really know what to do. And then I moved to the fourth largest city in the country. So I'm in Houston. We've got 7.8 million people in our metroplex. I knew one of them. And then as soon as I got here, he left. So I knew nobody. So I needed to find a way to surround myself with some really good caliber people and people that I could benchmark with, because I knew, and I really liked NAIFA for this specifically, because there were other groups. But NAIFA is very agnostic as it relates to your business model, your creed, your specialty, it's your product line, because there's so many intricacies within it. And I knew that being around other NAIFA members, I would learn stuff just because of a luncheon I went to, or, past COVID, I have friends within the NAIFA Federation that are in Ohio, that are in Florida and around the Federation, which is great. And I've built friendships with them over the years. Sometimes I might see them in DC or at a national conference. I love going to those because I get to see those types of individuals. But building those friendships and having resources in different product lines besides just life insurance really gave me the tools that I needed in order to stay the course and be focused, whether it was practice management or sales ideas. And then the deeper you get in with NAIFA is you start learning about advocacy and what that means for, the tax code and the availability of products. But it's it seems like a lot of people will join for that, but they're more tenured members. I seem to think that the younger members that join are more sales ideas, connections, fellowship. And that's really what I needed. I needed the fellowship more than any of it. But I tell folks that NAIFA kept me in the business.
I'll share that for me, it was funny when I first joined, and this is probably not unlike many NAIFA members. The manager of my office was like, "No, you're joining. You're gonna join my board, and you're just gonna be a part of it." So I did, and I had to do my own learning by being in there. And what I thought was, if I could use some very vulgar language, I thought our shit didn't stink. I thought we were just awesome at Lincoln. I thought we were amazing. And then I attended some meetings. I got to know people, and I thought, okay, there are different ways of doing things, selling insurance, talking about it, how to connect with clients, even some of the more simple things like being able to say hello to a new person and, getting over your nerves, little things like that. And I thought, okay, there's a lot to learn here from lots of different people and the way they do things. There's not just one way. And so that was a really first good impression. I will never forget that. Going, wow, this is really cool. There's a lot of people that have a lot of different ways of doing things. Then over the years, right, you just get to build friendships. And is that community that Rick just talked about? You build a community. And so I just had a state meeting. I hadn't been in there for, I don't know, a good year. It's been doing so much work stuff, COVID, all that stuff. But it's been awesome to stay connected, and you definitely build friendships, and you have lifelong friendships because of it. So, and yeah, it's nice because then you can have a conversation. I remember talking to somebody one time. I remember exactly where I was. I was sitting inside of an outdoor mall, and I was on the phone with one of my board members for state, and we're just talking about business. We're talking about how he was overcoming working with somebody on a estate planning case. We were just kind of bouncing ideas off of each other, and it's just that kind of opportunity to be able to again build that community and stay connected with others in the industry, not just in your firm, but across the industry.
That's a perfect segue into what brought me to NAIFA and what has kept me as a part of NAIFA. So I was introduced by someone in the firm. I think it's been 4.5 years now. And I had no idea what NAIFA was. I was told, you just need to join. It's $10 a month. It'll really benefit you long term. And I said, okay, for $10 a month, I'm in. So I joined, and I started attending NAIFA meetings and events. And what I found is I work with, let's call it 30 advisors within the Columbus Lifetime Financial Growth Agency. We are all very similar in what we do. Where I found more value is meeting others that are in the industry, but do something different. It is not exactly the same, and it is such a broad industry. I have been able to meet people that sell just Medicare supplements or life insurance experts or anything and everything in between. So not only have I created resources for myself and my clients in other areas, but I've met a lot of other people that are doing what we do, but in a different realm, if you will. Not only that, I was able to become the Young Advisor Team of the Year in 2020. It was the novel year for that, and it's going to continue. That led me from the YAT chair to I'm now the treasurer for NAIFA Ohio, followed by next year I'm going to be the vice president for NAIFA Ohio. It's just one of those opportunities that I didn't know what to expect, but I'm glad that I was told to do it. The value it's immeasurable. I can't even tell you the actual dollars and cents that have come along with it, but again, it's adding resources to my quiver. So I have arrows to my quiver. So I have as many resources as possible for my clients.
Yeah, that's exactly kind of how I felt since joining, a couple weeks ago, whatever it was. But I was kind of the same way. Just got recommended to join by a few people, and it's been great since. And I do have one final question as well. You guys have all been at your companies for a little while and are high up at it. When you hire people, hire interns, hire people to work, what do people do to stand out within their resumes, but also during the interview process, during the actual interview?
Resumes are fine, but what I really care about is how they come across in a conversation, how they respond to questions, or, I mean, do they feel genuine or do they feel like they're making something up? And you can tell how people are responding to questions, and a big dose of curiosity. Like, be curious, want to learn. Hey, how does that work? And we have some pretty good questions today, so that's just a great example. But to me, it's nice to have the resume. Everybody starting out is going to have kind of a light resume, but if I see that you're engaged, I see that you want to learn, you're genuinely curious, that to me is a big deal.
I love it. It's so Mimie had said before, I think she was talking about her love for nerds, but if I can get the sense that someone wants to geek out on something, then it's probably a good thing. When I was starting to dabble with advanced planning and getting into what I call the sexier things in life insurance, I was an absolute geek and nerding out and losing my head and just some of the software and kicking things around and trying stuff. But was it worth my time? I don't know. But typically, I don't need any software. You can give me an idea of what you want to see, and I can ballpark it, and it's pretty close. So I don't show a lot of numbers in the things that I do. I'm a people guy. When I'm interviewing, I want to get past some of the BS, for lack of a better term. I want to see some authentic desire. I want to see that someone is willing to learn and to put whatever they think that they know just aside and to be able to take direction well. I shouldn't say this out loud, but I will. When it comes to licensing, I typically tell folks, I don't care what you scored on the state licensing exam, because I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. Just get the passing grade, and then I'm going to teach you I do a life insurance 101, a 102, a 201, a 301, a 401 we start getting into some sexy stuff. So I'm going to teach you everything already. I just need to know that you're willing to put in the work when you're not sitting in front of me, and to go and try and get kicked around when you're not sitting in front of me, so that we can fix you later. And if you check all those boxes, then we're probably going to be able to make some headway together.
Okay.
And just to add briefly to that, one small thing on a resume, I personally like to see work outside of school, whether you're working at a coffee shop after hours, or you are, what I did in college is I valet parked cars and worked at a beer drive-through. I like seeing that you want money, that you want to put money in your pocket, because you need to be motivated to do what we do. And without motivation, you're going to sit there and wait for things to come. And it just doesn't work that way. You can be the smartest individual in the world, know everything about financial planning, but if you don't have anyone to share it with, it's not going to benefit anyone. So I look for two things. That first conversation, again, going back to what Mimie said, is it authentic? It's really easy to tell if someone's just a great small talker, or if they're actually authentically engaged in what we're discussing. And two is motivation. How do they see themselves 12 months from now? If it's an intern, do they see themselves, if they're in between junior and senior year, do they see themselves doing this after graduation in 12 months? Do they see themselves acquiring and building a book of business, so you have clients to go to and you have individuals that you can rely on? Again, bringing it back to the team aspect of things, are you also flexible? Can you maneuver around situations, because you're going to be uncomfortable in this industry? There are times when you're going to feel very lonely and you're going to feel very uncomfortable. And lonely is when you just don't have anyone to talk to. And uncomfortable is when someone doesn't want to say yes and you're trying to get them to say yes. Those types of things happen. So can you motivate yourself for the future? Are you authentic? And are you flexible enough to be able to make things work in those situations. Really, it's the first 10 minutes of a conversation, you can tell for the most part. And after about 3 weeks, I can tell you if this individual is going to make it in the industry or not. It's really easy to see if they're not doing the simple steps. It's just not for everyone. We know that. So those things really together that's what I look for when I'm in an interview.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
right, Derek. Early habits. It's showing up to work. It's not rolling in at 9:30 thinking, I got my bagel, I did my surfing thing in the morning, and now I'm like, I'm gonna go make, I'm gonna go play on the computer for a little bit. Don't do that. If you are serious about this, show up early. I mean, this is all the same things you hear from a lot of successful people around what the grind look like, what's the hustle look
Yeah.
like. And that's
Yeah.
exactly it. And I know that there is a sort of like, oh, millennials, or I don't know
Hmm.
whatever gen version we're on right now, but I know that there's sort of like a predisposition for, young people to have sort of like oh, this is how I'm just going to do it. This is the way I'm doing it. And I will tell you, I can see the difference between those who understand, even though that they're young, they still have that hustle. They still have the habits. And, you talked about sports earlier. To me, people who are in sports, who have the discipline of sports, have a greater propensity to survive because they have to stay disciplined. They've got to practice. They've got to do X, Y, and Z in order to stay good, stay great at their skills. So that's why I think that if you have that behind you, you're really good at that, then you probably have a pretty good success opportunity there.
Thank you. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions? Any other closing comments from our panelists here? Any other thoughts to share for Grayson and the people who will watch us on demand? You can see when you join it live, it definitely becomes a lot more engaging conversation. So Grayson, thank you for joining us online. But any other comments from anybody?
I just sorry, go ahead, Rick.
Please.
My one comment, Grayson, is compare this to baseball. If you have a bad game, how do you make up for that bad game? You work a little bit harder next time. You're going to have a lot of strikeouts, which is awesome. And I'm saying strikeout is a good thing because you're a pitcher, but you're also going to have a lot of guys hitting home runs against you, and you're going to have some walks in there too. You have to realize the strikeouts are going to come, but you have to take everything else with it. So you have to, I don't want to say you have to have a short memory, but you have to know what's next, because sometimes you're just going to get bogged down by individuals. That's great. Who's next? Go on to the next game. That's all you have to do. Forget about that loss. Forget about that guy that hit a grand slam. What is next? That's all that you got to focus on.
Yep.
I love that. Yeah. So Grayson, you asked great questions. You're an impressive guy. There's no doubt. I love what Derek said. So I used to train folks that, some will, some won't. So what? On to the next. It's in the beginning, it felt like I was begging for someone to say yes. And then after a period of time, I couldn't get people to stop saying yes. And I just started counting my no's, which sounds like an interesting problem, but you've got to get the reps. You got to go through the process in order to get to a level like that. And then if you can level up again, you start teaching people how to get through what you did. So it's no different than you. It's learning how to play ball, getting pretty good at it. Maybe someday coaching, maybe being a GM someday. Who knows? But what I was going to comment on was that we were kind of having a side comment, which I think is worth, because this is going to be recorded and not everyone can see our chat, is that Mimie had suggested a couple books. Things like Good to Great. By the way, Good to Great has these really awesome monographs in addition to it, like how to lead in the social sector. So how do you lead someone that you're not paying, which I think is a great book. And also the monograph, another monograph of the Good to Great is it talks more about the flywheel, which is great. Mimie had suggested Who Moved My Cheese. These are all great books. 7 Habits. It's not an industry book, but I think there's some really good core things in there. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And then I mentioned 2 industry books that are really required reading for all of our advisors that come on. One being Joe Jordan, who is an absolute friend of NAIFA and is honored this year with NAIFA's highest honor. and really the highest honor in all of insurance and financial services. But he wrote a book some years ago that's got some really great practical examples. It's all the shaded sections in the book that talk about how these products have served families. It's called Living a Life of Significance. And then Ed Deutschlander, which is very difficult to spell, and I butchered it in chat, but I was looking over and trying to think, which books would I recommend? And Ed Deutschlander has written several. Being the First Believer, I think, is another really critical book.
And
I'll
oh, go ahead, Memes. I was gonna say, what is I think it's Start with the Why. I think that's another
Fine.
good one.
Nick.
Is that what it's called? I can't
Yeah.
can't all I can see is the
Fine.
word. Start with the Why. Yeah, that's another one. Traction is another one that is often recommended for, just kind of that grit. Oh, I think Kathleen Owens gave you grit last week. I think Kathleen said grit last week, but that's another good one too.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
leave with
she
a
did
couple.
recommend.
Sorry, I'm gonna leave with a couple quick thoughts, and I have to jump to another call. But Grayson, if you go into full-time production, owning your own business, this is a failure business, so just remember that. But that's okay. If you fail, you can only succeed, right? You're going to learn from those opportunities. So those aren't there, like Derek said, there are going to be tough days, and that's okay. You just have to remember that tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's a clean slate, and you can keep moving forward just as long as you're building really good habits. And remember, I think one of the things that I see most often where I see failure is that an advisor doesn't remember that they are a business owner in addition to being an advisor. Those are two jobs, two big jobs. And so when you are running your business, you can't run it into the ground. Meanwhile, you're helping clients, because if you run into the ground, you're not going to have clients to help. So I just want to leave that seed with you as you think about what avenues you take. Being a business owner is awesome, and being an advisor is awesome. You just have to do those two together well.
Gotcha.
I'll send
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your email address, because I have a couple of things I'm going to email you. Financialplanning.com, for instance. Also, Horse's Mouth is another great investment. I think it's like $200 a year, and it's great information, a great way to learn early on.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well,
Okay.
thank you, Grayson. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you guys for taking the time to
Curious,
speak with
what
me. I
time is
really
it?
appreciate
7
it.
o'clock there?
Yeah, 7:00 p.m.
For him to go to dinner, actually go get appetizers, right? Don't they start dinners like at 9 o'clock at night in Europe?
Dinners are a little late here. They usually do something called aperitivo first, which is like pre-dinner drink and snacks, and then you go to dinner. So it's
Nice.
a little later here, but you kind of adapt to it.
Go get your wine.
Yeah. Enjoy. Nice to meet you, Grayson. Emily, thanks for setting this up. Good to see
Yes,
Rick.
thank you, everyone. And so next week we'll wrap up our final session of Future Leaders. We have Chris Gandy, who is actually, he might have played with a major basketball star from, the 90s and 2000s in the Windy City. So he's got turned advisor, former professional basketball player turned advisor. So he's got a great story about, just achieving and succeeding, and, kind of some of the things that we've been talking about along the way throughout this journey of, how to just continue to reach for the top and overcome some of those challenges and things like that. So really motivational story there from Chris Gandy. So we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.